I have mixed feelings about it. I love Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
I think it was great that they put him in. I like to see people know about Howard the Duck. Have we talked about the great Howard the Duck switcheroo?
No, we haven't.
Okay, the great Howard the Duck switcheroo. Anyway, so basically, Howard the Duck was created by Steve Gerber in the 70s for Marvel. And of course, back in the day, Marvel, if you created a character for Marvel, Marvel owned that character. It didn't matter how much work you did on it or blah, blah, blah. Marvel owned it. I mean, now they have Icon, which is creator-owned stuff. But anyway, apparently that Steve Gerber may have had some sort of other, like a different ownership contract or something like that. And there was a lot of trouble over that. Like Steve Gerber broke with Marvel, like his contract, and wanted to get out of it. There was a lawsuit involved. Blah, blah, blah. There were some concessions made, but Marvel own Howard the Duck now.
Okay.
And Steve Gerber has since died, which is why I think they put him in, because they're like, well, we can do whatever we want now.
Yeah.
But the great Howard the Duck switcheroo is he stopped working for Marvel forever, and in order to fund the lawsuit, he created another character, Destroyer Duck.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
And that became a new character, and he didn't use he hadn't written Howard the Duck story or Destroyer Duck series in years, and then Marvel contacted him a few years ago, and they're like, hey, do you want to write a Howard the Duck story? And he's like, not really. And then Eric Larson, who created the Savage Dragon, contacted him and said, hey, do you want to write a Savage Dragon Destroyer Duck crossover? And he's like, well, not really. But then he got an idea, and he did both of them at the same time, basically. And he's like, look, I'll write them on the condition that I can put them together, like I can cross them over together.
Right.
Like I'll do two crosser. I'll do a Spider-Man Marvel team up with Howard the Duck, and I'll do a Savage Dragon Destroyer Duck crossover, and they're going to cross over. Like they're going to meet together in the middle, right? And so they released both at the same time in the same month, and basically the villain is a character called the Elf with a Gun. He's like a magic elf. He's got a gun. He's been around for a while. I don't want to explain it, but anyway, basically he puts in all the characters, like Howard the Duck's girlfriend Beverly is in it. It's a big thing. It ends, all the good guys and the bad guys go into this warehouse. In the Marvel Team Up episode, you see the Elf with a Gun. He uses his magic powers. He creates like 1,000 clones of Howard the Duck, and they all like swarm Spider-Man and the Savage Dragon and Howard the Duck, and it's this massive battle. At the end of the Marvel Team Up issue, the good guys beat the bad guys. They all go their separate ways back to their separate universes. But in the Savage Dragon Destroyer Duck version, there's an extra couple of panels, and in those panels, Destroyer Duck finds the original Howard the Duck and Beverly and grabs them and takes them back to the Image universe. But in the Marvel Team Up version, a different Howard the Duck, a clone goes back to the Marvel universe. So essentially, the Howard the Duck that is in the Marvel universe is not the real Howard the Duck. He's a clone. And Steve Gerber took back the original Howard the Duck, who took the assumed identity Leonard the Duck, and went back to the Image universe.
That is genius.
And then he died. So he wins. Because they can't take it back anymore. They would have to make another story where they go back into the Image universe and take him back, which would be a total dick move. See how that works?
That is brilliant.
That's the best. Yeah, that's my favorite. So here's this panel.
Yeah.
Anyhow, one of the clones ran out that way. They'll never know the difference. Got him. And I like Marvel a lot.
Yeah.
But
you also like people getting one over.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah. I love a sweet heist, especially if it's a weird, like, meta heist, which is just over intellectual property.
Sure.
That doesn't even make any sense.
So you'd be all in favor of a Howard the Duck solo movie or something, or a reappearance in some form or another?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I'd be very surprised if anything massive comes of this. There won't be a solo movie.
There will absolutely not be a solo movie.
But to see him pop up again and done properly, because the only reason people hate him is because of that movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Which is a very difficult film to watch.
Yeah, and I mean,
and just way off in a lot of little ways that are very.
The character design itself is quite upsetting. It's a weird looking duck too. It doesn't even look like the comic version of the duck.
That movie cost more to make than Return of the Jedi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I don't know.
It doesn't. Or it does? I don't.
And the fact that they needed to make, I assume, dozens of Ewoks.
Yeah.
But only one Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Why did that cost more money?
I don't know.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
and it's set on Earth mostly, right?
Yeah, well, there's some interdimensional travel. The principal from Ferris Bueller's the bad guy in it. Okay. And he's also the bad guy in real life because he was arrested with child pornography. So,
wow.
art sometimes imitates life. So
Sure does.
There you go. So more Howard the Duck or less Howard the Duck?
More Howard the Duck. But yeah, they're not. I understand.
They're not going to do Howard the Duck before like Nova or Black Panther or Black Widow.
No, absolutely
like, people would lose their minds if Howard the Duck goes first.
Yeah. Do you remember in Australia? You remember Australia?
I do.
But there was some magazine or newspaper or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to do a Sportsman of the Year and a Sportswoman of the Year. And for Sportswoman of the Year, they picked a horse. Do you remember that?
No.
Do you remember? There was an uproar. Why would you pick a horse? This is the same thing. This is exactly the same thing. Anyway, there's a certain boldness attached to...
Did that really happen?
That really happened. I think it was Black Caviar is the name of the horse.
That's amazing. That's not that long ago then.
Yeah, it was like... Yeah, it wasn't...
This wasn't like in the 50s.
No, this was like 2 years ago. But yeah, so there's a certain boldness with regard to Marvel where I think they'd be like, if now is the time, if they were going to make a Howard the Duck movie, their level of hubris right now... that this is it.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't. They really shouldn't. Make a Black Widow film first.
Yeah. There you go.
Red hot comic book movie news. Shooting up your